Contradictions in the accounts of the Last Supper. The Gospels agree that Jesus Christ met with his disciples at night and ate the Last Supper with them on the same night in which he announced that one of them would betray him, and in which he was arrested. However, the Gospels differ among themselves in identifying the betrayer and in the way he was revealed, and they also raise the question of whether Judas Iscariot was present during the institution of the Lord's Supper. When comparing the accounts of Jesus' announcement that one of the 12 would betray him, found in Matthew chapter 26 verses 20 to 30, Mark chapter 14 verses 17 to 25, Luke chapter 22 verses 14 to 23, and John chapter 13 verses 21 to 30, certain differences and variations become apparent. The most significant are as follows. Did the Gospels identify the betrayer? The Gospel of Matthew chapter 26 verse 23 states that Jesus declared the betrayer to be the one who dipped his hand with him in the dish. A direct dialogue then takes place between Jesus and Judas, in which Judas asks, "Rabbi, is it I?" And Jesus replies, "You have said it." The Gospel of Mark chapter 14 verse 20 mentions only that the betrayer was one of the 12, the one who dips bread with Jesus in the dish, without explicitly naming Judas in that moment. In the Gospel of Luke chapter 22 verse 21, it is said that the hand of the one who betrays Jesus is with him on the table. However, Luke does not mention dipping into the dish, nor does he directly identify Judas at that point. By contrast, the Gospel of John chapter 13 verse 26 states that Jesus identified the betrayer by giving a dipped piece of bread to Judas Iscariot. John also includes a detailed scene describing Satan entering into Judas after he took the piece of bread. Thus, according to Matthew and John, the betrayer is clearly identified as Judas Iscariot. In Mark and Luke, however, the betrayer is not explicitly named during the announcement, and the disciples question among themselves who it might be. How was the betrayer identified? According to Matthew chapter 26 verse 23, the betrayer is the one who dips his hand with Jesus in the dish. According to John chapter 13 verse 26, the betrayer is the one to whom Jesus gives the piece of bread that he has dipped. When was the betrayal announced? In Matthew chapter 26 verses 20 to 30, and Mark chapter 14 verses 17 to 25, the announcement of the betrayal occurs during the meal, before the institution of the Lord's Supper, that is before the bread and the cup are taken. In Luke chapter 22 verses 14 to 23, the reference to the betrayal comes after the institution of the Lord's Supper. As for John, he does not mention the institution of the Lord's Supper at all. Among the four accounts, John alone records that Satan entered into Judas after he took the piece of bread, and that Judas went out immediately. Did Judas Iscariot partake in the Lord's Supper? The Gospel of John does not mention the institution of the Lord's Supper, unlike the Synoptic Gospels, which indicate that Jesus' announcement of the betrayer took place during the meal, without explicitly stating that Judas left before the institution of the Lord's Supper. The Gospel of Luke is more explicit in placing the reference to the betrayer after the bread and the cup, which suggests that Judas Iscariot was present during the institution of the Lord's Supper and participated in it.